Yesterday, it added up to an 8-0 Cincinnati win, and it started on the mound. The Reds tossing their third shutout through the first 6 games, led by starter Scott Feldman. Offensively, 11 hits as the Reds take 2 of 3 in St. Louis, a rare series win for the Reds in St. Louis. And this road trip continues tonight in Pittsburgh. It is an absolutely glorious weather night for baseball in Pittsburgh. Real good crowd on this Monday night. And it's a first of 3. The Reds at 4 up, 2 down, taking on the 3-2 Pittsburgh Pirates. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. All right, Brandon Finnegan. We know he pitched well most of last season, especially near the end of the year. And my, oh my, did he get off to a big start here in 2017.
It's like he flipped the switch from spring training to the regular season and said, I'm going to throw all strikes from now on. And that's what he did the last time out against the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, really, the Phillies were overmatched. His fastball, by the end of the game, when he was in there in 7 innings, he was throwing at 95, 96 miles an hour. But really, the pitch that made it work for him was a changeup. He's got a really good feel of his changeup. He started about halfway through the season last year. You know what a bulldog he is. I think it's going to be a big, important pitch for him to change up tonight, Tom, because this Pirate team is very aggressive. They're going to go up there swinging the bats, and the harder you swing, the better you do fall into the pattern of falling for a changeup.
Starling Marte, a walk-off home run, a 3-game sweep over the weekend by the Pirates after dropping the first 2 games of the year against the Boston Red Sox. So one thing we know for sure, these 2 teams have drilled one another, pitchers hitting batters, more than any 2 teams in the history of baseball over the last 3 years. Something to watch tonight or no?
I don't know if there's really going to be a carryover effect or not, but I think that it's something, if it starts, somebody's going to have to start and pay back and then finish it up.
Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good. It's Skyline time. Reds roll into the Berg with a 4-2 record. They have 3 shutouts on this young season and some timely hitting as well. If you check out our IGS Bringing the Energy, you will see that it has been offense and defense that has propelled this club. Only team in the National League to homer in each game. .497 slugging percentage, second in the National League. 40 strikeouts, that's the second fewest in the National League. And Zach Cozart off to a hot start, hitting .450, fourth in the National League. But as we find out when we go out upstairs and check out the lineups, the Reds are without Cozart tonight. Here are the guys that'll call it: Tom Brenneman, Chris Welch.
All righty, Jimbo, thank you very much. We just learned about Zach Cozart not in the starting lineup. About a half an hour ago, he was in there originally, but apparently being bothered by a sore wrist. We'll keep you up to date on that. The Red starting lineup is presented by Menards. It'll be Billy leading things off, followed by Peraza, who moves over to short. Votto will bat third. Cleanup hitter is Adam Duvall in left. Suarez down at third and Schebler in right. Scooter Gennett will play second base tonight and bat seventh. Tucker Barnhart will hit eighth, and Brandon Finnegan on the mound, 1-0. Batting ninth. Starting it for the Pirates, he's 23 years young, a native of Newhall, California. Pitched in 7 games, making 4 starts last year. His numbers last season, presented by Mazda, is Tyler Glasnow.
Now, he has either been atop or very near the top of the Pirates prospect list for a long time. Tyler Glasnow is a big guy. He's 6 feet 8 inches tall. He throws very hard. He's got a good fastball, obviously, and a curveball. Last year he had trouble getting his third pitch over. That's his changeup, and it's a pitch that they hope that he develops along the way. But as far as pure arm and good action, he's got plenty of that.
In 23 big league innings last year, he walked 13 batters, and in a little more than 100 innings in AAA Indianapolis, he walked 62. Averaging far more than a strikeout per 9 innings.
So if you hear those kind of stats and you figure that, you know, all of a sudden this guy didn't just find his perfect release point, you may think the Reds would be a little bit more conservative at the plate. Make this guy throw some strikes right from the very get-go.
So the season debut for Glasnow. He's gone 36-19 with an ERA at 2.03 in 103 career minor league games. Now that's earning your way to the big leagues. Billy Hamilton digging in, 6 for his first 21. And naturally, we talked about showing a little patience. Billy first pitch swinging and fouls it out of play. So we're underway, strike one. .75 degrees, just a beautiful night here in Pittsburgh, and they've got some highly discounted tickets here tonight. A huge crowd, especially with school still in and a Monday night. $1 hot dog night tonight. Up and away, a ball and a strike.
You know, the one big difference you're going to see with this Pirates team is that their main man, Andrew McCutchen, is no longer sitting down and playing in center field. He's over in right field now, so they still expect a lot from their outfield, but it's kind of unusual to see McCutchen, you know, their every year all-star, their former MVP, sitting over there in right field, still only 29 years old.
Well, everybody knows the story of the Pirates. In 2013, they ended that 20-year streak of losing seasons. Hamilton aboard with a base hit into center field. A nice start for the Redlegs here in the opening inning. The Pirates beat the Reds that year in the wild card game. In 2014, the Pirates had 88 wins. They were in the wild card again, won 98 the following year in the wild card for a third straight season. And unfortunately for them, for back-to-back years, they would lose the wild card game to standout pitching. Jake Arrieta 1 year and Madison Bumgarner another year. The wheels fell off, however, last season. 20 fewer wins. 5 games under 500, 25 games out of first place. Hamilton a perfect 2 for 2 thus far running, and there he goes. Big high leg kick, and there is no chance to throw him out for Cervello.
Well, the opposition has been very effective so far stealing bases against the Pirates. I mean, no matter what Cervelli does, and he's got a good arm and a good release, the Pirate pitching staff is a very young staff, and they're big, hard throwers for the most part, and they're having a hard time holding the runners. Peraza ought to be trying to get him over to third base here with something to the right side.
39 career stolen bases now for Hamilton against his Pirate team. That's the most for him in his young career than any other team. Peraza does foul it off to the first base side. He's behind 0-2. Peraza 5 hits in his first 22 at bats with a run batted in. That came yesterday. And it's very early in the year, but we've talked so much, Chris, about Hamilton and Peraza setting the table for the guys, the big hitters behind them, Votto, Duvall, etc. Between the two, only one combined walk so far this year.
Well, that's the one thing that you expect them to get better at as they get a little bit older and more experienced, their command of the strike zone. But if Peraza can get Billy Hamilton to third base, it'll be a cinch for Joey Votto to drive him in. Votto could hit a sacrifice fly ball while reading the newspaper. But you can see the Glass now is trying to just really throw that ball in tight on Peraza, make it really tough to make him go the other way. He's throwing hard too, 94. Yeah, the other thing, the Pirates outfield and right field, McCutcheon's playing way too deep out there. Peraza's a guy that has flipped the ball into right field several times. And, you know, he doesn't take a big swing, and he won't take a big swing with 2 strikes. But if you see McCutcheon way out there in right field, you'll see that he's playing him like he's more of a power hitter than he is a number 2 hitter, just trying to get him around there. Look at all this area here in right field where Peraza has to try to be able to dunk that ball in there. You know what's happening out there on the mound is that Cervelli is trying to get Glass now to throw the curveball, and he keeps shaking him off, finally stepped off. And I think Francisco finally went out there and said, I put down the sign and you throw the baseball.
0-2 again on Peraza. Came with a fastball. He checks his swing. They appeal, or breaking ball, I beg your pardon. He did not go around, so he talked him into throwing it, or made him throw it. Probably more accurately. Hamilton a single to begin this first inning. Steals second base, and a lengthy at bat here for Peraza. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And it's in the air, short right. And the second baseman makes a catch. Here comes Hamilton to third, and Billy easily beats a throw. So that's not normally the way you move the runner over. Generally, it's on the ground. But a little pop up to the second baseman in short right field for a guy like Hamilton will turn the trick. Look at the Pirates on defense, and Chris mentioned Andrew McCutcheon. For the first time on an opening day in his career, started in right field. Marte now in center. Gung still not with the team at third, so David Freese getting regular playing time. And a very young right side, no Josh Harrison tonight. They have Adam Frazier and Josh Bell at second and first.
You know, if I'm Tyler Glass now, I don't give Joey Votto anything to hit in this situation. He's not the kind of guy that's going to go outside the zone. I would probably take my chances with Adam Duvall. As hot as Duvall is, Glass now is breaking stuff in his fastball, matches up much better against him, the right-handed hitter.
We threw him a fastball at 96 right there, and I think almost looked like Votto was guessing with a rather awkward swing.
It was it looked like it had some cut on it too, meaning it kind of rode in on Votto. He's a big, tall kid, and when you're 6'8" and you have long legs, you're right on top of home plate when you release the ball. That helps him also.
We brought up earlier, but it bears repeating. I mean, this young man's numbers in the minor leagues as he gets ahead now of Votto in 1 ball and 2 strikes. I mean, those are the kind of numbers you want to see from a guy who's a quote-unquote highly rated prospect. It's not taking anything away from Robert Stevenson, but just using him as an example. You go outside of Stevenson's first year in the minor leagues as Votto fouls it off, and ever since then his numbers are decent at a stop here or maybe a stop there. This young man right here has been a dominant force of every level in which he's pitched.
And that's why the amateur player draft, especially with high school kids, is more of a luck of the draw than it is a real science.
Up and away, 2-2 now on Joey with Hamilton at third and 1 out.
Joey showed that he can pull the ball. He hit a home run to right field on a fastball yesterday. And I think that's kind of occasionally you're going to see him go up and do that to show people, don't try coming inside too much to me because I will unjam you.
Nowhere near the strike zone, and it's full now on Votto. Joey 5 hits and 22 at bats, but he's made the most of the 5 hits. He has 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 3 runs batted in. Trying to get the Reds on the board in the opening inning right here and right now.
That's his best swing of the at bat. It was on a breaking ball.
Again, the 3-2 coming on Votto with Hamilton at third. Breaking ball is too low, so a good battle there. They're on the corners, 1 out, and here comes Adam Duvall.
That kind of funny that he got ahead of Joey Votto with the fastball. Really just blew the ball right by him. And then when he tried to put him away, he tried a little extra juice and he flew open and the ball went high and away and high and away, and then ended up throwing 2 breaking balls on the full count.
Duvall off to a big-time start as 8 hits and 28 at bats, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 4 runs batted in. Coming off a great game yesterday in the rout of St. Louis. Fastball up and away. He had 3 hits, including a solo home run and a couple of runs batted in. When they brought Glasnow up to the major leagues, and again, it's not a large sample size by any means, 7 games, 4 starts, but he averaged just a little under 5 walks per 9 innings. And he's having a very hard time finding the strike zone to start this at bat. 2-0 on Duvall. Threw him a breaking ball and there's a strike. Runners on the corners, 1 out here in the opening frame. 3-1.
You can really see some inconsistency in the follow through of Tyler Glasnow. Sometimes he follows through standing up, sometimes he bends over. Right now he's just trying to find the strike zone a little bit and try to get out of this inning with too much damage.
Well, Duvall is looking to create major damage on a 3-1 fastball if he gets it in the zone here. He got a fastball, but he was tardy. Many of you did not see the highlights from yesterday. There was no television. They jumped all over Carlos Martinez, who was sensational his first start of the year against the Cubs. But a 3-hit day for Adam. This is a big pitch in this inning. Votto running. Ball 4, and they're loaded for Eugenio Suarez. Ray Searage, a longtime pitching coach under Clint Hurdle. Hard to believe Hurdle now, Chris, is in his 7th season managing this Pirates team. What a job he has done.
He's done a really good job, Hurdle has, in kind of changing the entire culture. You have to remember that the Pittsburgh Pirates were losing for 20 consecutive seasons until they finally won in 2012. Talked about winning their wild cards in 14 and 15. But the last 4 years, the Pirates, and you win a lot of money if you bet somebody on it. With 358 wins in the last 4 years, only the Cardinals, Dodgers, and Nationals have more wins in the National League than do the Pirates. They have come a long, long way from being down at the bottom of the cellar.
Well, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world now where it matters what you do at the end of the year. And despite all those wins, not a single postseason win during that stretch. The Eugenio Suarez takes way inside but fouls it off.
Well, you know, the Reds are trying to do something that they've not done yet this year, which is put a run on the board in the first inning.
In fact, they've only had 2 base runners in the first inning through the first 6 games. And this is for a team that, you know, Jim Day gave you some of the numbers a moment ago, whether you're looking at hitting or whether you're looking at pitching. The Reds in this 4-2 start are among the very best in all the National League and in all the baseball in both departments. Two and one on Suarez. DJ Rayburn, the umpire behind the plate tonight. Mike DeMuro over at first. Tripp Gibson at second base, and Brian Gorman at third. Gorman is the chief. And this young man right now can't find the plate with a compass. 3 balls and a strike.
Well, I think the same thing goes obviously right here for Suarez as did for Duvall. You get one down the middle on 3-1, be ready for it.
Little dribbler foul. So a full count on Suarez. Already a 3-ball count for the 3rd time to a Reds batter in this inning. 3rd time it's been a full count as well. In fact, 3 straight hitters. Billy Hamilton at third base, Votto at second base, Duvall on at first. 3-2 to Suarez. And that's ball 4 high. 3 straight walks by Glasnow. And the Reds still have them loaded. Now they have a 1-0 lead.
Schebler will be up there looking for the first pitch, something to hammer. Don't wait around for him to walk you. He's just trying to throw a strike right now. He may take something off to get it in there.
Up and in, ball 1 with a fastball. Schebler has 16 at bats. He has 4 hits, 2 of them home runs. Tied with Duvall, a team high 4 batted in, and Scott has a double.
They're already going to warm up somebody down in that Pirate bullpen. Well, it's a lonely place on the pitcher's mound right now for Tyler Glasnow. I mean, there is nowhere to hide. Everybody's looking at you. And you know all they want you to do is throw the ball over the plate. That's what your pitching coach just told you. That's what guys in the infield are trying to do. They're giving you a little pep talk from behind, but you know that it all is on you.
Wade LeBlanc, the left-hander, starts to crank it up. He's been a starter at times during his major league career. 3-0 on Schebler. And his big crowd starting to get a little bit restless. For many of you maybe watching at home, there are some empty seats in, PNC Park's equivalent of the Diamond Club seats right behind the plate. But there are a lot of folks in this ballpark tonight. And there's a gimme strike, and the crowd cheers, appreciative, after 3 straight walks and then 3 straight balls. So again, another 3-1 count for a Reds hitter looking for something to drive. Well, he had a good rip and fouled it over the screen and out of play. Another walk and another run. 4 consecutive walks since a runner at third and 1 out in this opening inning, and it's 2-0 Reds.
A manager's worst nightmare. He's pushing 40 pitches in the inning. You know you don't want to dig too big of a hole, but I mean, exactly when do you pull the trigger and get him out of there?
Now Scooter Gennett, we brought up earlier, a very late addition to the Reds starting lineup here tonight after Zach Cozart came down with a sore wrist. Scooter 1 hit in 11 at bats, the 1 hit a home run on opening day, and I think that hit him. No. On momentarily, we are pretty much at the second highest venue from any ballpark we go to up here.
Yeah, Cervelli just back there trying to cover up. I mean, he's been blocking balls in the dirt. He's been leaping for balls. That one, that's his throwing hand that he either got the ball bang off of that, or maybe he landed on it funny when he went to move over to block that last breaking ball in the dirt. Take another look at it. I don't know whether he put his hand down and may have like hyperextended his wrist or his hand, or maybe that ball got him on the elbow and is stinging all the way down his arm like a little tinkler.
Well, the 4 walks already in this inning, 4 consecutively for that matter, but the 4 overall ties a number that the Reds have for a game high so far this year. Not an inning high, a game high. We may remember Cervelli took that foul ball a couple of years ago at Great American Ballpark that literally brought him to his knees, and we wondered how in the world this guy was staying in the game. He stayed in the game. So there is no way he's letting a ball that hits off his throwing hand jerk him out of there here in the opening inning tonight. 1-0 the count on Scooter Gennett. And he nearly had to take one off that right hand and knock it down again. I don't know how in the world you leave this kid in at this point. Because it's getting worse by the minute before it's getting any better.
Well, he's got to be exhausted. This is pitch number 40.
2 balls and a strike. Gennett trying to add to this 2-0 Cincinnati lead. Swung through a pitch. It was up in the strike zone, even a count. Young man is the main man, the #1 prospect in the Pirates organization. The 2-2. They will give the force at second. They will not turn it over at first, and the Reds tack on another run to make it 3-0 here in the first inning. Eighth red to bat here in the opening inning, and it's Tucker Barnhart. The Reds have 1 hit in this inning. Yet they've scored 3 times, and they've had 5 base runners. That's a fair ball, and the inning is over. So the Reds take advantage of severe wildness from Tyler Glasnow, and after a half inning jump out to a 3-0 lead. Inning. So the Pirates come to bat under manager Clint Hurdle here in the last of the first, and this is the way they'll stack them up, presented by Menards. Jordy Mercer, Starling Marte, Andrew McCutchen, Gregory Polanco the cleanup hitter, David Freese down at third, Cervelli behind the plate, a ladder third of Bell, Frazier, Glasnow against left-hander Brandon Finnegan, coming off an outstanding start, his only start this year against Philadelphia in Game 2.
His confidence just has to be really soaring after what he did his first time out. First Reds pitcher with 7 shutout innings while allowing 1 hit in the first start of the season since Jerry Arrigo did it back in the 60s. So he spotted 3 runs early on, and you got to figure anyway that this is a very aggressive hitting lineup, and it's a big ballpark. Good night to pitch for Brandon Finnegan.
We brought up earlier Finnegan in 3 outings last year against the Pirates. Threw the ball very, very well. He started against him in Cincinnati in September, and this was the time that Finnegan started to get on a nice run. He did not pitch well, at least, he only gave up 2 earned runs, but 5 overall, so he wasn't very sharp. But in back-to-back starts here, he was really good. 11 innings, allowed 8 hits and only 1 earned run.
And he finds himself 3-0. Finnegan's got a lot of action on that fastball. I just don't remember that much movement on his pitches from the fastball last year. I mean, you can see the tail. We've got a really good angle here at PNC Park than that center field camera.
Strike two, a full count on Mercer leading off the game. Mercer beginning his 4th season, 4 in a row, as the opening day shortstop for these Pirates. 3-2. Must be contagious out there on the mound early on tonight.
Mercer is normally the number 8 hitter up there, but against left-handers, they move into the leadoff spot. Well, the breakdown for Brandon Finnegan brought to you by Mazda on his first start against the Phillies last Wednesday. And this is what he did. He threw nearly 70% fastballs, but that changeup usage at 18% is much more than it used to be. Look at how often he threw it for a strike. That's outstanding. In fact, I think overall he threw 6 changeups that had something to do with a play. 2 of them were strikeouts, and 4 of those resulted in a ground out. So that ought to even help his confidence more use that off-speed pitch. But before you do that, you've got to establish your fastball.
Good start for Marte. 8 hits in 21 at-bats, including a home run. And we mentioned that came yesterday. A game-ending home run, finishing off the Atlanta Braves in a 3-game weekend sweep here in Pittsburgh.
They feel that Starling Marte has finally kind of grown into what they thought he would be, and has become the best player on this team. Now, I don't know if Andrew McCutchen, who I said was 29, by the way, McCutchen's 30 now. Had a birthday while I wasn't looking.
Soft liner, center field. It'll fall in front of Hamilton. So the Pirates trying to answer the Reds, who scored 3 in the top of the first. They have the first 2 on here in the bottom of the inning. On defense, presented by Ford. Pretty much a regular group we've seen outside of the middle infield tonight due to the sore wrist for Cozart. So Peraza moves over. Jeanette another start at second base. McCutchen, a 5-time National League All-Star, won the MVP award in 2013. 4 times has won a Silver Slugger award. But his numbers dropped dramatically a year ago from where we've seen them in the past. He wasn't nearly the offensive force which he has been really since moving into the everyday lineup nearly 9 years ago.
Well, there was a time, though, between 2012 and 2015 that his numbers were as good as anybody in the game. I mean, he was right there with Mike Trout and Clayton Kershaw, if you want to compare him with WAR, the overall value of the player. So he was the elite of the elite, but he had a nightmarish year last season. A lot of people that saw the Pirates play a lot would speculate that maybe McCutchen was hurt last year. It did let on. And that there were some things bothering him that he just wanted to play through because he knew he had an obligation to this ball club. And they're hoping that here in Pittsburgh, that this year he comes back, he is really healthy, and puts a typical Andrew McCutchen year together.
Just off the inside corner, 1 ball and 2 strikes. The home run total is really right around where McCutchen has been through his career. Talking about last year, he had 24 of them, but the runs batted in dropping significantly. The on-base percentage dropping nearly 70 points. Slugging percentage down 60 points. There's a fly ball into right center. Hamilton will plant for the throw, and Mercer is not going to go. He's not a runner. And Hamilton, a very good arm. 1 out. Polanco, 25 years old, another native of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, brought up in 2014, and now in his 4th season as a Pirate starter. Has 2 on, 1 out here in the bottom of the 1st inning. Good breaking ball there.
Polanco is another one, kind of along with Marte, that they have been watching this pair get better and better each year. He had a breakout year from a long ball standpoint last year. He went from hitting 9 home runs in 2015 to hitting 22 home runs last year.
And he led the team with 86 runs batted in. They did not have a single player other than Polanco knock in more than 80 runs last season. And there you see the 86 from last year, more than his combined total from the 2 prior years. And in fairness, in 2014, that's when he was first brought up.
He's a big swinger here. This is where you make him chase.
One-two pitch from Finnegan. Here it comes. Got him to chase on a breaking ball, down and away. And after the first 2 reach, Finnegan's retired the next 2, 1 more to go.
Well, he threw a really bad waste pitch on the waste pitch count, 0-2, then came back with a slider that looked like for just a moment out of his hand that it could be a strike. It was ended up being a ball out of the zone, but a really nice slider by Finnegan puts away a pretty tough hitter, Gregory Polanco.
1 more out to go. The former postseason star of the St. Louis Cardinals, David Freese, looks at ball 1 low and away. The regular third baseman facing yet another DUI charge in his homeland of Korea is still not with the major league team.
He's having a hard time getting a visa, right?
Yes, he is. So he's still back there. And Freese trying to take full advantage of the situation. And Freese knows a thing or two about going through that. In fact, they wrote about it in the local papers today. Many, many years ago, as a very young player in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, he was picked up for a DUI. And he said, look, I'd be happy to help my teammate if he needs any help with anything once he gets here. Be happy to offer him some words of encouragement, anything he might need. 3-0 on Freese.
Well, this is exactly what Brandon Finnegan did not do in his start against the Phillies. His pitch counts each inning were very low. He was efficient. That's one reason why he went through 7 innings and really hardly broke a sweat. Not every day's like that. Some days you have to push it a little harder to get it in there.
Three balls and a strike on David Freese. Freese 4 hits in his first 11 at bats, including a home run. Reds lead 3-0. We are only in the bottom of the 1st inning. 2 outs, 3-1 pitch on the way. Crowd has almost been lulled to sleep by the pace of this one so far. Their young pitcher, if you're just joining us, walking 4 consecutive batters, the latter 2 with the bases loaded. Red scoring 3 times in the top of this opening inning.
What about announcers?
Not far off. 3-2. Got him swinging on what was ball 4. So 3 straight after 2 reached, retired by Finnegan. 3-0 Reds. We go to the second. Opening day for the kids, presented by Frisch's Big Boys, coming your way Saturday, April the 15th. Now come on down early. We've got a free block party going on over at the Banks featuring a Reds players parade. We have face painters, jugglers, photo ops with Cletus from Fox Sports Ohio, and so much more. For more information, visit Reds.com. That is this coming Saturday. It's going to be a big, big day. 3-0 Reds. We're in the first of 3 games here at PNC Park. The first of 18 overall between these two teams here in 2017. Brandon Finnegan to lead things off, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike to the Reds pitcher. Reds will play 23 out of 26 games during this stretch inside the National League's Central Division. That started with the Cardinals, play the Pirates, then come back home 4 against Milwaukee. The only games they'll be stepping out of the division will be an interleague series against Baltimore, who comes in for 3 next week. Then it's 3 against the Cubs, go to Milwaukee, go to St. Louis for a second time, and then these Pirates come into Cincinnati. Soft liner caught by the shortstop Mercer to open up the inning. A number of games earlier today where teams that opened their first 2 series on the road come back home for opening day. One of them, the slumping San Francisco Giants. And they got a much needed win against the surging Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona kicked the Giants around that first series of the year to begin the season. Well, the Giants 4-1 winners earlier today. Billy Hamilton, a perfect 2 for 2, a pair of singles in each of the first 2 innings.
Well, wouldn't you like to see him just groove that swing, just nice and easy, not trying to overpower the baseball, just kind of drop a little drop shot right there in shallow center field, and now it's off to the races. Because he went on the first pitch last time against Glasnow. I mean, why wait around? This kid's more worried about throwing strikes than anything else in the entire world right now.
They got Peraza on a pop-up to short right after Hamilton had stolen second base in the first inning.
And that's a big, deliberate move to first base. I mean, he's telegraphing it and taking a long time once he decides.
Billy a perfect 3 of 3 to begin the year, not running this time, and that's ball one outside. Each of the last 2 seasons, Hamilton was leading the major leagues in stolen bases before a late season injury ended his season and ended a quest for a stolen base crown. Over there chatting with first base coach Frenny Benavides.
Yeah, I don't know what that discourse might be about. A green light is a green light, right? I mean, look how he winds up when he throws to first base. I mean, you'll see more experienced pitchers kind of short arm the ball over there, almost like a second baseman turning a double play. Well, look how long his arm arc is before he throws it over there. That's something that over the years will get better, but right now he's raw.
And a liner into center field this time for Peraza. And the Reds have something cooking again against Glasnow, although they're earning their way aboard so far in this inning with back-to-back one-out singles and Votto coming up. So a pretty rough combination so far here for Glasnow. When he can't throw it over the plate, he's walking guys. When he is throwing strikes, they're whacking it.
Well, at least they're dropping it in there in no man's land. Might not be his night. What was that number there with a runner at second base? Was it first sign or second sign? Okay, got it. That gives you an idea of how nervous that kid is right now. After having walked 4 in the first inning, he can't remember what the sequence is when you get a runner at second base in the second inning.
And look, Chris, in all fairness, we have so many fans, a majority of fans out there watching the game. They know exactly what you're talking about. But just for some of those that are trying to learn the game.
When there's a runner at second base, so he doesn't steal the sign and relay it to the hitter, the catcher goes through a sequence. So you pick, all right, let's pick the second sign I give you, or the third sign, or the first one after a 1. They change it around so the runners don't, give the hitter what's coming.
Is it possible they could have changed them with so many base runners on in the first inning, or for a young guy just too much to think about?
It was too much to think about.
All right.
Now, I always remembered what sign there was with a guy on second. Because every time I turned around, I had a guy on second.
Oh, and 1 to Votto. And there go the runners. And a swing and a foul ball out of play. Boy, they could have both gone in standing up.
Yeah, and really on a play like that, when you have a double steal, Hamilton gets a break. He decides to go. He may signal Peraza. He may not. Probably not. But Peraza, all he does is watch the lead runner. As soon as Hamilton goes, he goes. Because he's got a big lead down there. The first baseman's playing well behind him. So although an 0-2 pitch kind of dangerous really with a kid that throws fastballs and likely misses high and away. Could be like a modified pitch out.
There they go again, and a check swing and a miss by Votto. He's out of there on strikes.
I wonder if he was maybe a little bit distracted by the runners going. He had a glance at Billy Hamilton at the very end of that. It was a very odd swing.
There are some hitters where that certainly is true, and they'll tell you that. I've never really heard Votto comment one way or another. There's a liner into left center field, a base hit by Duvall. This will play 2 more. And the beat goes on for Adam Duvall. What a start for his season. A 2-run single, 6 runs batted in, and the Reds have a 5-0 lead in the second.
People everywhere are asking me now, what has gotten into Adam Duvall? I mean, he's the real deal, right? Well, he had a great first half last year. Of course, he went to the All-Star game, was in the home run hitting contest. Slumped a little bit in the second half, but he is showing everybody who cares to watch that he means business. He may have arrived a little bit late to the major leagues as an everyday player, but he's taking advantage of every at bat he's getting.
And I can promise you there are those in the San Francisco Giants organization who are looking at box scores every morning at the numbers Duvall put up last year and the early part of this year and saying, how in the world did we not move this guy to the outfield? Now, in fairness to the Giants, year in and year out, every year they're a contending team. It is infrequent that they are bringing up young players and playing them every single day.
You're right.
They did that with Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford, but by and large, they don't do a lot of that.
Well, they did get a major league starting pitcher in return.
They did. But they only had him for 2.5 months. Reds have something good, it looks like, for quite a while. And if you're wondering, you don't remember, it was Mike Leake who the Reds traded to the Giants.
Who threw the ball very well the other night for the Cardinals against the Reds.
There goes Duvall, and Cervelli throws it into center field. I mean, Cervelli is getting worn out behind the plate. We're just in the second inning. Reds already with 4 stolen bases in this game.
And Cervelli in the second inning has already caught his 60th pitch. I mean, his arm's got to be worn out just throwing it back to glass now. Well, the other thing that that the Pirates are probably thinking about is that they were to have a scheduled off day on Thursday, the day after the Reds come home. But they've got a makeup game with the Boston Red Sox that was rained out here at the start of the season. So they'll end up playing, I think, 15 or 16 days in a row this early in the month of April. You don't see that happen very often.
And Chris, you throw on top of that, they've already played 2 extra inning games this year.
And when they do return home after that trip that takes them through Wrigley Field and then Busch Stadium in St. Louis, they host the New York Yankees. It's a tough month.
3-1 on Eugenio Suarez. And he fouled that one back. What a great start here for the Reds tonight. They were off and running on Friday night, the series opener, thanks in large part to the spectacular major league debut of Amir Garrett, setting the tone in that series. The Reds would win 2 out of 3, the 2 wins, shutout wins over the Cardinals. 3-2. That's got to be it, right? For Glasnow. Yep, here comes Clint Hurdle. He has seen enough tonight. Well, what a rough 2017 debut for Tyler Glasnow, this #1 ranked prospect in the Pirates organization. He appeared in 7 games last year, 4 as a starter. And the hometown fans are not impressed. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. PA. This ballpark looks right back into downtown Pittsburgh across the river. An inning and 2/3 for Tyler Glasnow, and now it's left-hander Wade LeBlanc.
And under a beautiful full moon tonight over at PNC Park. Maybe that may explain the weird goings on here in the first couple of innings. Wade LeBlanc, I think he's pitched with about 6 or 7 organizations in 6 or 7 years in the major leagues. Even spent a little time in Japan in 2015. And when the Pirates signed him, and last year they had him, and they thought he was really going to be used only as one of those loogies, you know, left-handed, only one guy pitchers. But here he is in the second inning, and Clint Hurdle probably said, hey, it's your ball until further notice.
He's 32 years old, born and raised, still makes his home in the Bayou, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Came over from Seattle in mid-September last year for cash. Pitched in 8 games for the Pirates and did a very nice job in the 8 games he pitched. Only allowed 1 earned run in 12 innings of work, but you saw a shaky start to this year, giving up 3 runs against Atlanta on Friday night. Pirates lost the first 2 games of the year on the road in Boston. They're unbeaten, having won 3 in a row over the weekend here. 1-1 to Shevlin. Runner goes to second, and
nobody there.
Not even got to the bag.
Well, if it's putting the fans to sleep, maybe Glasnow put the players to sleep too. Just late getting to the bag. I'm not sure what happened there with Jordy Mercer.
5 stolen bases through the first inning and 2/3 in this game tonight for the Reds. Shevler tries to add to a 5-0 Cincinnati lead with a pair of runners in scoring position. A 2-1 count. Straight up in the air. The shortstop is there. The left fielder never saw the ball. It's a good thing for the Pirates it didn't go a little bit further out, because Polanco never saw it. Line brought to you by Elk and Elk. Now the Reds are not allowed to run. Only 1 inning tonight, but you got to start somewhere, right, Mr. Welsh? And not too shabby for the Reds. First time with 3 shutouts in the first 6 games of the year since 1980. First time they've had 3 in a 5-game stretch at any time since 2013. Their 3rd shutout last season did not come till game number 102.
Now, do you have the backstory on that? Who may be the pitchers that were throwing those shutouts back in 1980? I imagine Mario Soto. Had to be one. Maybe Bruce Perenyi was Tom Seaver with the team in 1980.
I believe he was.
Frank Pastore.
Well, it's only the second time in the modern history where Reds pitchers have begun a season with 3 shutouts in the first 6 games. In the wild card era, you go back to 1994, only 5 other teams have done it in their first 6 games, and I mean all teams in baseball. And we'll get you those names, by the way, here in a minute. The 95 Giants, the 2002 Diamondbacks. I saw that team. That is not a surprise at all that they would get 3 shutouts in the first 6 games of the year, because Johnson and Schilling were probably starting 3 of those. The 2005 Marlins, and the Dodgers had done it twice. And that means Kershaw twice.
Well, I found out the backstory on that, who the Reds pitchers were in 1980.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, Frank Pastore did it on opening day. I didn't know he had started on opening day back then. Mike Lacoste did it on one of the other games, and then followed up by Charlie Leibrandt. All complete games.
And all against the Atlanta Braves, the losing pitchers. How'd you like to be Phil Niekro starting that year? He was shut out on opening day, as you mentioned, by Pastore. He was then shut out 4 days later. That's right, 3 days rest in between starts. Phil Niekro shut out by Leibrandt 5-0. That was the year the Reds started that season 8-0. There's a walk to the number 6 hitter, Francisco Cervelli. So that's a second straight inning that Brandon Finnegan's walked the leadoff man. He only walked 1 batter in his 7 innings. The second game of the year, he punched out 9. Our producer Josh Hall tells me, if you didn't feel bad enough for Phil Niekro already. So after the Reds shut him out 2 of the first 4 games of the year, when the Reds won their 8th straight game that season to begin the year, they played the Braves again, and Pastore gave up 1 run, and Niekro was a losing pitcher.
Hang with him.
Hang with him is right. 1 ball and 1 strike. Getting a look at Josh Bell, highly touted youngster, another one in this Pirates organization. Made his major league debut last July. He had a base hit off Jake Arrieta that night. The next day he hit a pinch hit grand slam. And this year the opening day starter at first base. In fact, on that opening day game, he just missed hitting a home run at Fenway Park off Craig Kimbrell in the 9th inning, missed by about a foot. And that one muscled into left field, and for the second straight inning, the Pirates begin things with a walk and a single.
Yeah, you talked about the numbers that Tyler Glass now put up in the minor leagues. You can say the same thing for Josh Bell. He really earned his way up here. You go year by year throughout the minor league career of Bell, and this guy just proves to everybody that he can flat out hit. Switch hitter, puts the bat on the ball. Not a lot of home runs, but you can tell by that last swing right there, he's got a nice controlled approach at the plate. That pitch is right in on his hands. He gets his hands right next to his belt buckle to get that barrel through.
Adam Frazier coming off one of the best days of his young major league career. He had 3 hits and 5 at bats in the leadoff spot yesterday afternoon. When you talk about versatile. 4 starts through the first 5 games for Adam Frazier at 4 different positions. Left field, second base, third base, and was used as a DH in Boston. 1-1.
Well, they've been leading him off against most right-handed starters.
So far, anyway, this young fella's not been intimidated by left-handed pitching. He only has 26 career at-bats, this being his 27th against major league left-handers, and he has 11 hits into 26 at-bats.
Yeah, we'll see how he negotiates his slider.
Started 2 and laid off.
And that's the key, really, because most left-handed pitchers, when they face left-handed hitters, their breaking balls are not thrown for strikes. They look like they're strikes coming out of the hand, but by the time they get to the plate, they're darting out of the zone. That's one reason why Votto hits left-handed hit pitching so well. He just doesn't chase a lot of that stuff that ends up being out of the zone.
So there's another walk, and they're loaded with nobody out. Bases loaded, nobody out, and it's in there a strike to the left-handed pitching and batting LeBlanc.
Do you think LeBlanc had a clue that he'd be batting in the bottom of the second inning in this ball game?
No.
I mean, he probably doesn't even put his cleats on until about the 6th.
He has 112 major league at bats. He has 28 hits. I tell you what, that's pretty good. That's a .250 batting average.
You know, he started a few years. His career started with the San Diego Padres. And I think that he pitched a couple of times against the Reds, 1 or 2 times, pretty good. I can't remember him hitting, but Finnegan's got nowhere to put him.
Hey, 112 trips to the plate is not exactly, 15 or 20. To have a .250 career batting average is pretty doggone good.
Right.
Especially when you're bouncing from league to league.
Continent to continent.
Precisely. Finnegan needing to strike out here. 1 ball, 2 strike delivery. And he got it. It's his 3rd strikeout of the game, so that's the first out here in the 2nd inning. Now Tucker Barnhart wants to visit Finnegan on the mound before they face Mercer, who walked leading off the Buccos opening inning.
Now, if you're at home and you heard us talk about all the shutouts the Reds had in 1980, and you're wondering why Frank Pastore started opening day, Tom Seaver came up, I think, ill or lame that day and couldn't make the start. So thank you all you folks on Twitter who have filled in the rest of our backstory to give you the complete deal. That's a dandy pitch there. I mean, Mercer's looking fastball all the way, and with bases loaded, after you walk 3 in the inning, you start him off with a changeup. Boy, is that a dandy.
Bases loaded, 1 away. Came back with another one. That one high. Finnegan is not allowed a run so far this season in his first 8 1/3 innings, but they're loaded with 1 out. Good fastball there at 97. That's something you brought up before the game started.
Yeah, you know, that may be a little bit misleading because this year I think Major League Baseball has gone to a different way of measuring the fastball. And in years past, there was a pitch FX system. Now they're using the StatCast or the one of the other ways of doing it, and it's added fastball to velocity to just about everybody. But why not make you feel good?
Well, there was that changeup again, and that's as good an at-bat as we've seen Finnegan have on the mound tonight.
And you really got to hand it to Tucker Barnhart back there for calling this, because I think he's sensing that Finnegan's got a better feel of his changeup than he does his fastball. I don't see Finnegan shaking a lot.
Well, here's Marte with the bases loaded. Swing and a miss. Another one. Well, you showed earlier, what was it, 18% he threw the changeup, but 38% of the time it was for a strike.
Yeah. It's a really usable pitch because it doesn't strain your arm at all.
Reds leading 5-0. Pirates with the bases loaded and 2 outs for Marte. And that's high. 2 balls and a strike. Marte singled his first time up. We're just in the last of the 2nd inning, and the Reds with a 5-0 lead. Pirates with the bases loaded. Ground ball left side, and a throw by Peraza is in time, and what a job by Finnegan. Bases loaded and nobody out. The Pirates do not score, and what an outstanding play by Peraza.
It was a big day yesterday for Reds catcher Stuart Turner. He got his first major league hit in St. Louis. It was a double. He had his brother Seth there and one of Seth's friends, Derek Maggio, there. Now, Derek, who's a bit of a collector, noticed on the video board that they had an ad that you can buy one of the bases at Busch Stadium. So they looked at each other and said, we've got to go by second base. This is a picture that I took after the game. Stuart on the left, brother in the middle, and Derek on your screen right. And they dropped $225 for that base. After the game, Stewart was excited and says, hey, man, I'll pay you back. I'll buy that thing off of you. And Derek said there's no way he's going to make him pay for it. They will work something out. They had to drive back to Louisiana, but what a haul they drove back with. Stewart gave them the lineup card, which was given to him, the ball, which they threw aside, and that second base. As far as the bat goes, you know how players are. Stewart says there's more hits in that bat. We'll wait till I break it to add that to the collection.
Why, of course, Jim Day. Tell you what, that was quite a play by Jose Peraza there, because that is a fleet-footed Starling Marte getting up the line.
You know, it just goes to show you, though, Tom, that scouting reports can be maybe overrated a little bit, because I heard from everybody. I mean, Red Scouts, other scouts, and other organizations that, well, Peraza's a nice player, but he can't play shortstop. He doesn't have the arm for short. Well, I don't know if there's a more demanding play than what we just saw him make. What he does do very well is gets rid of the ball real quick, and that makes up for whatever lack of arm strength he may or may not have. I think he's got plenty of arm.
Close play, and Jeanette able to beat it out.
Well, the bobble
down by Frazier, but Scooter getting up that line, scooting up that line. Let's go back to the Peraza play to end the inning with the bases loaded.
This was big because it was bases loaded right here. Look how far he goes into the hole right here, but gets quick, really quick release. And you've got a very quick runner going down the line here.
That has scored an error on the second baseman, Adam Frazier. So the Reds have a leadoff man aboard, leading 5-0 here in the third inning. Fouled away by Tucker Barnhart, who ended the 3-run first inning with a bouncing ball to the first baseman as a left-handed batter. And now he'll turn around and have at it from the other side. Marte doesn't have to move, and that's the first out here in the third. Brandon Finnegan lined out to the shortstop Mercer, his first time up. Reds have already stolen 5 bases in this game tonight. That ties last year's season high for a game, which they accomplished 4 times. The last time the Reds stole 6 bases in a game, you got to go back to 2015 against Minnesota during interleague play. Perfectly bunted by Finnegan. That'll move the runner along into scoring position. 2 outs, and a reminder as always, something to look forward to later on. We'll have our Miller Time moment, brought to you by Miller Lite. A perfect night for Billy the Kid. A pair of singles, both into center field. 2 stolen bases, 2 runs scored. Billy with a 4-game hitting streak, and in 3 of those 4 he has multi-hit games. So he just looks like a different guy, going back to right around the All-Star break last season, becoming the player the Reds envisioned having. Now, there's still obviously work to do, and Billy would be the first to tell you that. And he's still not walking much this year, but he's getting on base.
Well, it was a shame that he had to finish the season not being able to play. Injured, they didn't want to risk anything with him there, so they shut him down. And that's why you see so few games there in the second half, when he would have been playing every day, and with that renewed confidence and better I guess, approach at the plate. And if you talk to Billy, he'll tell you it's all about the approach. He begins to sound a little bit like Joey Votto. You know, you've got to buy into your preparation.
They'll get him out this time, and that'll end the inning. The first scoreless inning for the Reds through the front three. We played 2.5, 5-0 Redlegs. .017 returns with a fast-paced pickup and play MLB action with all your favorite MLB teams, players, ballparks, and so much more. Get RBI Baseball today for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, or your mobile device. Learn more at rbigame.com. Game 1 of 3, Reds in Pittsburgh. Reds winning 2 of 3 to start this first road trip of the season. And they lead the series opener here tonight after 2.5, 5-0. 3-4-5 in a lineup. McCutchen, Polanco, and Freese against Finnegan.
Well, it has not been easy for Finnegan. Even though the Pirates have not scored, they picked up a couple of hits. They've had runners on base every inning, including the first 2 to start the bottom of the first, the first 3 to start the bottom of the second. So it's not always easy. So those nights, you know, you're struggling more, you really got to call on, you know, some intestinal fortitude to get it done. He's trying to weave his way through 5 innings now that the Reds have given him a 5-spot lead. It looks like he's going to go more and more with the off-speed pitch, and why not? I mean, how many 23-year-olds, first of all, how many 23-year-olds are anchoring down a major league starting rotation? And then how many of those can adjust the way that Finnegan looks like he's adjusting tonight to going what is working? Yeah, he's missed there with the changeup, but I mean, you know, he crafted his way out of that last inning after walking the bases loaded. Throw another one right there.
Oh boy, that fastball at 96 in on the thumbs of McCutchen. 3-2.
You know why I'm not believing that radar gun? Or it's not the radar gun. I know it's some other technology. These guys are having too good of swings at these pitches that are 96 and 97.
That one pulled to the left side into left field. A base hit for McCutchen. So we mentioned the first 2 innings. First 2 on, first 3 on. Now leadoff man aboard in the 3rd.
Now he finds a hole right there between a third baseman and shortstop. We call that the 5.5 hole. Because you can keep score. The shortstop is number 6 on your scorecard, and the third baseman is number 5. Halfway between is exactly where McCutchen placed that ground ball. A couple of former MVPs there.
Lotto 2010, McCutchen 2013.
You know, McCutchen can be a free agent after this year. The Pirates do have an option for 2018.
And that one hooked into right field by Polanco. And here they come at him again. 2-1, nobody out.
Well, now it becomes kind of squirrely decision for Brian Price as to, you know, how long do you go with your guy? He gave you such a great outing his first time out. He's a hard worker. You want him to get the win if at all possible. But, you know, the Pirates aren't just laying on the mat right here. And he's probably thinking down the road, let's see, we've got 60 pitches. I mean, is he even going to make it through 5 innings? Just from a pitch count standpoint.
David Freese struck out his first time up. First pitch change up, low and away.
You know, it's better to throw the changeup down in the dirt over the plate than it is a pitch that just misses outside completely, because it never looks like a strike when you miss outside.
7 of the 13 Pirate hitters that have come to the plate have reached base in this game against Finnegan, yet they have not scored a run. 7 of 13. Three and 0. Well, the Reds have a fleet of pitchers down in that bullpen. That we know. Robert Stevenson more than likely would not be a pitcher that would be used today after that lengthy and very ugly outing on Saturday. There's a 4-pitch walk to load him up for the second straight inning with nobody out.
Full moon kind of game tonight.
Brought up earlier, Brandon walked 1 batter in 7 innings against Philadelphia. That is his 4th walk in the first 2+ innings tonight in start number 2.
I can tell you one thing. Even though he has got bases loaded for the 2nd inning in a row, Francisco Cervelli loves hitting the fastball. And if he gets something down Broadway, this guy can knock it off the scoreboard.
Well, not only Tucker Barnard coming to the mound, he'll be joined by the Reds pitching coach Mac Jenkins.
This is where you want to do your best pitch whisperer act if you're Mac Jenkins.
So interesting to look who's down there in the bullpen getting warmed up. Michael Lorenzen. Interesting because Lorenzen along with Iglesias have been designated as the co-closers of this team, although they'll be used in multiple innings. That's been well documented, more than 1 inning. Lorenzen has been a starting pitcher his entire career until he came off the disabled list last season. And Brian Price realizing that early on you want to squelch a team's idea about getting back into the game.
And it could be just to get out of an inning. Although if his spot came up in the order, obviously you'd allow Michael Lorenzen to hit. And then maybe you use Lorenzen for an inning and bring in, say, Tony Cingrani to pick up from there. Somebody who could give you multiple innings. Cody Reed is down there. It's a lot of options.
2-1 to Cervelli with the bases loaded. Threw 2 fastballs right by him, and you're right, he has taken hearty hacks at back-to-back heaters.
Well, Finnegan did it last inning. Bases loaded, then strikeout, ground ball out.
But does he throw a 3rd straight fastball to Cervelli? 2-2 pitch. Fastball low. Second straight inning, the Pirates have loaded him up with nobody out. McCutchen, Polanco with hits, Freeze with a walk. Pirates are on the board. Finnegan has now walked as many batters as a Pirates starter.
I think that's going to be all, because here comes Brian Price.
Well, that's a big step backward tonight for Finnegan. Not to suggest that every night's going to go great. We know better than that. But his first start in 7 innings, he allowed 1 hit, had 1 walk. And the 2 things that really hurt Brandon last year in an otherwise excellent first full year in the big leagues were home runs allowed and walks. So Michael Lorenzen. All of a sudden, this is a ball game. It's 5-1, and the Pirates have them loaded with none out.
Without retiring a batter in the 3rd. I'm Jim Day. All spring training long, in fact nearly on a daily basis, Brian Price talked about his bullpen, saying it was going to be a throwback style bullpen of guys working multiple innings, and a hybrid bullpen in which the trend in baseball, and we saw it last year in the World Series with the Indians and Andrew Miller, of bringing in one of your top relievers no matter the inning. This is a situation with the Reds have the lead, bases loaded. Managers say some things and don't do them once the season starts, but right here, Brian Price doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
It's a great point, Jim Day. So here is Michael Lorenzen, his 4th game. He's only worked 3 innings.
Well, the first order of business is getting out of this inning for Michael Lorenzen. Don't worry about how many innings he's going to be able to give the team until you can get out of the 3rd.
We have Josh Bell with the bases loaded and none out. Lorenzen works out of the stretch, and here we go. Just threw a fastball In on the hand, strike one. That's a cut to it.
That's been his new pitch, that new cutter, Tom. That's a good point you picked up. That ball will run hard right into a left-handed hitter. And if you haven't seen it before and you're looking for a fastball, well, it can break your thumbs.
Looks like they're doubling up. Boy, that was a wicked pitch right there.
And it looks just like a fastball coming out of your hand. I mean, 93 miles an hour. Well, that's the Mariano Rivera version right there.
Then you come back with a look like a regular two-seamer there. I tell you, that second pitch, I mean, you're thinking to yourself, there's no way guys throwing a 93-mile-per-hour slider, but it sure had the effect of a slider.
Yeah, well, that's what cutters do. It's more of a speed pitch than a spin pitch, but it acts in the same way.
0-2. In the air, center field. Hamilton the catch. The runner will not go.
Whoa!
Good play there by Barnhart as Billy missed the cutoff man, Joey Votto.
Well, David Freese was convinced that Gregory Polanco was going to go on that, because when that ball got cut loose from Billy Hamilton, he was running about halfway to third base. Freese is on second base right here, and you're going to see him just take off. And fortunately for him, that ball missed the cutoff man, because had it been cut off, they'd have had a double play.
I get ready to say, if there's ever a better illustration for hitting the cutoff man, I don't know if there is one than that right there. You hit Votto, that is a double play. So now the left-handed batting Adam Frazier. And Lorenzen misses, ball one away. They're loaded with one out.
What do we say the run expectancy is when you have bases loaded and nobody out? 2.9. Well, the Pirates have had that in back-to-back innings here. Ground ball right here gets the Reds right out of this inning. A ground ball at somebody.
Two 2-0 on Adam Frazier. It's a good pitch here on a 2-0 count.
The main thing here, Lorenzen, throw strikes, throw it down in the zone. Don't elevate it for him.
Tell you, this is a big batter in this inning because the Pirates do not have anyone getting loose in their bullpen. The pitcher is going to bat next. Unless I missed somebody getting up a little while ago.
I don't see anybody down there.
3-2 on Frazier. That is a fair ball. They come to the plate and they get the out.
It's a nice play by Michael Lorenzen. Really kept his wits about him. I mean, he's thinking about saving that run right here. He bounces off the mat. He's a very good athlete. Like a cat. You know, this way this inning's played out for the Pirates. I'm really surprised that Polanco didn't try to score on that fly ball to center field. It was relatively shallow, but still you have to make the guy throw you out, don't you?
Well, especially where you are in the batting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know, and I don't know if Clint Hurdle talks strategy with any of his other players, but you certainly are able to turn around and look out at the bullpen and see if anybody's getting warmed up and know where you are in your batting order. You know, now maybe if you have 4, 5, and 6 coming up behind you, okay. But when you have 8 and 9, boy, what a job this would be by Lorenzen if he can get out of this inning without any damage. Needs to retire the pitcher who can hit. We brought up earlier. Quickly ahead 0-2. How many times have we talked about it through the years? What Jim Day brought up about using your best pitchers out of the bullpen at the most critical time in a ball game, which doesn't necessarily always have to be in the 9th inning. It could be in the 7th, could be in the 8th. Brian Price feels like it might be the 3rd. One, two. What a job by Michael Lorenzen.
Nice.
You just can't do it any better than that. He walked in the door with the bases loaded and nobody out, and retires 3 batters without a run scoring. What a job by this talented young Californian.
By Nationwide is coming to beautiful Muirfield Village Golf Club May 29th through June 4th. It's the official kickoff to summer. Order your badges at memorialbadges.com. Jose Peraza will lead off the half inning for Cincinnati. When he gets on base with no one ahead of him, Brian Price has said, for the most part, he will have a green light just like Billy Hamilton for a few reasons. One, obviously he's fast and can steal bases. But a few years back, they were giving Billy the green light because they wanted Hamilton to learn pitchers and learn situational stealing, and sometimes learn the hard way. He wants Jose Peraza to do the same thing, to be able to learn when, what counts, what pitchers, what situations to steal in, and he'll have the green light just like Hamilton.
And why not? Reds are hoping both of these guys get on base. That's where it all starts. And that they've done tonight. Hamilton, 2 singles, 2 stolen bases, 2 runs scored. Peraza 1 of 2, a stolen base, a run scored.
You know, it's like the Pirates really haven't learned by watching Peraza so far. You still have Andrew McCutchen playing very deep in right field. I would even think that with 2 strikes you start coming in a little bit if you're a right fielder, having watched Peraza. He just like dumps that ball right in there.
Sharp one hopper, but gloved by LeBlanc on the mound. 1 out. LeBlanc has done an excellent job so far out of this Pirate bullpen. He walked the first batter he faced when he came in the second inning. Well, I beg your pardon. That was the final batter by the starter Glasnow. He retired Schebler to end that inning. Leadoff man reached on an error, but he retired the next three in the third, and the leadoff batter set down here in the fourth. The Reds a 5-1 lead. 3 in the first, 2 in the second. Bucks got a run in the third. Votto has walked, scored, and struck out. Two and two to Votto.
Votto just does not want to give up. You see how late he gets out of the way of that pitch that comes inside to him. He's had a little bit of success in the times he has faced Wade LeBlanc. 4 for 9, but his on-base percentage is .545.
That would be pretty good. Hit hard down the left field line, but slicing foul.
I think Votto and LeBlanc were waiting for the same thing. That DJ Rayburn wasn't going to ring it. I really believe Votto he was fooled and was taking strike 3 right here. Watch his reaction. LeBlanc's got to be thinking, I make a perfect pitch on Joey Votto and I don't get him out. How else you going to get the guy out?
Well, he took care of him on a 3-2 pitch, and the first two set down by LeBlanc here in the fourth, and that'll bring Duvall to the plate. Early makings of another big night for Adam Duvall. Walked and scored in the first inning, had a 2-run single, stole a base in the second. Very, very limited schedule around Major League Baseball. First off day for many teams who played the second day of the year. Not every team, played opening day and then had a day off, especially those playing out west with no foreseeable weather problems. They're in the 7th inning in Philadelphia. Phillies a 2-1 lead over New York. A 3-3 game in Washington. The Cardinals and the Nationals. And Colorado and San Diego just underway in Denver. Dodgers will play the Cubbies. That's a good series. Starts tonight at Wrigley Field. On the ground is short, and the Reds are retired in order. That's the first 1-2-3 inning for either team tonight. Reds lead 5-1. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. Confluence of the Ohio, Monongahela, and Allegheny Rivers in downtown PA, Pittsburgh, PA. Michael Lorenzen came on with the bases loaded, a run in, nobody out, in relief of Brandon Finnegan, and did not allow the Pirates to score again. A pop fly, a force out of the plate on a ground ball in front of the plate that Lorenzen threw home to Barnhart, and then a strikeout of the pitcher to win the inning. Pirates have put the first two, the first three on base in each of the first 3 innings, all against Finnegan, who is charged with the 1 run in his 2+ innings. 3 hits, 5 walks, 4 Ks. Already the 3rd trip to the plate for the Pirates leadoff man, Jordy Mercer. Lorenzen picks up his 2nd straight strikeout. Boy, he's featuring some nasty stuff here tonight.
Yeah, you really got to like his delivery. It's almost textbook-like because it is so clean and so pure. There was some thought that maybe Michael was showing the ball a little bit because he is so pure. But I mean, it's just a clean delivery. You get the ball out of your glove, you stay back over the rubber, but his stuff is just can be overpowering. His fastball can reach into the upper 90s. He's got good tight breaking ball. That little cutter of his is like a brand new toy that he just got. There it is again. I mean, this new pitch, and we'll just take a look at the delivery right there. That's just nice and simple. Not a lot of wasted action. Make sure he gets loaded at the top when he gets that left leg of his and his knee kind of wrapped around a little bit. So you go from the cutter, then you take a little bit more off and you work in a little slider or slurvy, curvy deal.
Boy, that was nice, so wasn't it? Outside corner, knee high. Come back with another one.
I mean, painting it. Forget it. I mean, if you're starting Marte, you're like, no, I don't think so. You know, Marte wants to wipe that out of his mind, but he can't. Man, oh man, is that a thing of beauty.
Well, you know, it begs the question, Chris, with that new quote-unquote toy, as you mentioned, and now really it's like a 3rd pitch. It's got the regular, you know, 4-seam or 2-seam fastball. Now you have that cutter you throw in that breaking ball. We saw the last 2 pitches. Does it tempt you to consider Lorenzen as a starter again? Well, he's still so young.
Look at the effort level that he's putting into it now. This is much, much better than it was when he first came up and was a starter. I mean, every time he ran into problems, he'd do what every other young kid does and rear back and try to throw it harder. But now he's got a lot of other weapons, and I think he gets it. And this is what that little bit of time in the major league has done for him. That's why it's important to get the same experience for some of your other younger pitchers. And the Reds have that on their platter, you know.
Straight away center field. That'll back up Hamilton, who got it up against the wall. Billy Hamilton. That ball just continued to carry. And how in the world that young man did not win a Gold Glove a year ago is still beyond each and every one of us that have a chance to watch him play every day. He is something. in the inning.
Billy Hamilton had to go a long way because he plays fairly shallow anyway. He was just going to outrun that baseball. I wasn't exactly sure where that wall was, but he getting some more defensive tips right down there from our guy Jim Day.
Oh, he's actually talking it up with Amir Garrett about leaping. I think a little bit of basketball has come up. By the way, if anyone could beat Amir Garrett at basketball on this team, it might be Billy Hamilton.
Jim, have you ever done your impersonation of Billy Hamilton to Billy Hamilton?
Oh, many times.
And what does he think about it? Because it is as good as it gets.
He laughs.
He does. He likes it.
he
well,
laughs.
I mean, it's the best form of flattery, right?
And he's got the greatest sense of humor, too.
Maybe I could get behind him.
Oh, man, I just outrun the ball. I just go after the ball. Let's go.
Well, he's got that. Is there a little shield between you and him there? Here's back there. Is that the back of the bench?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
well,
don't
he's
think
sitting on the
you.
trash can.
You got to lean a little closer, maybe to his left ear there, and see if you can drop it on him.
All right. Look,
All right.
you're going to get me in trouble here.
No, we're not.
Oh,
Look what happens when we bring it up.
exactly.
Long ball. Suarez. And the Reds lead 6-1. You better start talking in Billy's ear every inning. Tell you, this guy's starting to heat it up, man. He had some loud outs to begin this year, and now all of a sudden those hits are coming.
Well, he's got a good swing. I mean, he and Duvall have just power-packed swings. Comes on a 2-1 count, one of the favorite counts for hitters to get a pitch to hand, a little slider, flat thing from LeBlanc, and Suarez knows it immediately. Man, that's got to feel good.
Suarez, his first home run came over the weekend in St. Louis. That's number 2. And the Reds now push the lead back to 5 runs at 6-1. Ground down to first, and that will be the first out, I beg your pardon, in the inning. You know, there's obviously a long way to go in this game. It's just the top half of the 5th. So the Pirates have 5 more cracks at Reds pitching here tonight. But making the move to Lorenzen could turn out to be just an exceptional decision made by the Reds manager Brian Price in this game. Because when the team has the bases loaded and already a run home in the inning, for the first time the Pirates felt like they had some life, even though it was still just the 3rd inning. I mean, this was ugly if you're a Pirates fan through the front 2 innings of this game. Now you're thinking we have a chance. Here comes this guy. We've gotten into their bullpen. As Tucker rips one foul. Then Scooter Gennett. And Lorenzen comes in, retires the next 3. They don't score again. He has a dominant inning in the 4th. Back-to-back strikeouts before the great play by Hamilton. So now that proverbial wind has been taken out of the sails of the Pirates. And then you get a leadoff home run to start this 5th, and all of a sudden, bang, you're back in a 5-run hole again.
And Michael Lorenzen can give you multiple innings where you don't have to go and pitch 5 different pitchers in this game. You don't deplete your bullpen. Right now, he's pitching like it's effortless.
It's one of those things we talk about in baseball all the time. You know, there's so much baseball speak where you'll still hear players say the same thing over and over and over again, and especially managers, because they have to talk to the media every day. You know, how many times have we heard, you know, we would love to see that guy work out of the bullpen. That used to happen back in the old days, and you know, we'll get his feet wet in the bullpen and then we'll put him in the rotation. And then 2 or 3 years go by from the same manager and you never do it one time. Well, Brian Price said that I will use our best pitchers in what I deem to be the most important or critical juncture of the game. And tonight he felt that way about the third inning. Jeanette bounces out to second base, 2 away.
Tom, you spelled it out exactly the way it has evolved for the Reds and Brian Price, and I'm sure that there have been many managers along the way that have thought the same way. I mean, this isn't reinventing the wheel here, but it's having enough faith to actually go out and do it. And I think until you had analytics that back it up, that on paper say, why would you bring one of your worst relievers in what is a clutch time of the game when you have somebody else out here that could be a shutdown pitcher? Continue the momentum of this ball game. Maybe your team adds a couple more runs and now the game's out of reach. I think it had a lot to do with the ability of those guys that crunch the numbers to actually show how it really works before they decide to make these moves.
Well, the Reds tack on. Suarez clubs a home run here in the 5th, halfway through it, and the Reds lead 6-1. The Reds a 6-1 lead with a home run leading off the top half of this 5th inning. This time a year ago, the bullpen was on the brink of disaster. They started off well for a week, and then it got ugly. Opening week this year, you can't do it much better than they've done it.
Well, you're not kidding about that, and you're right. You know, Tom, there are only 2 guys who are on this bullpen this year that were in the bullpen at this time last year. So everybody else has changed over. Of course, you've got Michael Lorenzen back and Raisel Iglesias, neither of whom were ready to pitch at the beginning of the season last year. So you're asking guys to get into different situations, and it just didn't work out. The key, however, to keep this bullpen strong is to get some innings out of your starters. And if you pair, too many back-to-back nights of having your starter go, 5 innings or fewer, that bullpen can get worn down in a hurry.
Well, they were lucky that, when they had the short inning by Arroyo, they were able to come back with Feldman pitching into the 7th inning yesterday. So a short outing tonight by Finnegan, and they're probably going to lean hard tomorrow on Amir Garrett, who makes his 2nd big league start. 1 out. Now David Freese with none on and 1 out. Lorenzen has not allowed a base runner since coming in. He's retired 7 in a row. This should be 8. It is.
In all likelihood, Michael Lorenzen will be sitting on the bench tomorrow night and the night after that on Wednesday. He'll be in really pinch hit duty mode. Got to be kind of exciting for him, really. I mean, to be on a big league team and be, I guess, as close as there is right now to a two-way player. I mean, you see it in college. You may even see it in the low minor leagues when a player is signed as a fielder or a hitter and a pitcher, and he hasn't decided yet which he's going to be. But you don't see it very often in the major leagues.
Ho hum, 9 up, 9 down for Lorenzen. We march on to the 6th. Reds lead 6-1.
Thursday versus Philadelphia. Michael Lorenzen, one of the sweetest swings you'll see out of a pitcher. It was a pinch hit home run Chris Welsh was just talking about. After this stint tonight, he'll be on the bench in a pinch hit roles, and to expand on that, over the last week he has done interviews, and you guys talk about baseball talk, and most pitchers think they can hit, most pitchers think they can play the field, or at least say they can. Michael Lorenzen believes it. In fact, he is lobbying to be a two-way player. He's a frontline bullpen guy. Not sure what would happen outside of an extra inning game, but a center fielder in college. He believes that he can be a position player, and if you ask him, he wants to be a starting pitcher as well. Thinks he can do it all.
Well, somebody sooner or later is going to give a young man that opportunity to do that. I don't know if it's going to be Brian Price giving Michael Lorenzen the chance, although, you know, of all the guys we've seen come up in recent years, I don't know if anybody looks more able to handle the role potentially than Lorenzen. I mean, the guy athletically is just an animal. I mean, incredible athlete, unbelievably strong. From a temperament standpoint, young man of very deep faith, as we know, mentally tough kid. So we'll see. It's going to happen sooner or later. You can take it to the bank. Drew Hopper down to third. Reds have activity in their bullpen, so they probably let Lorenzen bat there, but remove him from the game. That is Cody Reed, another highly touted youngster in the Reds organization, who, getting back to something we touched on briefly, is getting the chance to stick with the major league club this year, along with Robert Stevenson, pitching out of the bullpen, even though both have always been and still want to be starters in the big leagues.
That's where it's at. I mean, you work once every 5 days. You get paid like you're working every day. Now, if you're a closer, you know, you can share in a lot of the limelight and a lot of the cash that they're throwing at these players, but you don't want to get lost down there in middle relief when you're in your early 20s. And I think that's why you see in the minor leagues, I mean, every organization's the same. They let their best arms get seasoning in the minor leagues as starting pitchers. It's easier to follow them. It's easier to get them to work bullpen sessions in between starts. And that's very important as far as the progression of a young pitcher. I mean, you've got to practice it. And if you're a long man sitting down there, whether it's in AAA, AA, or in the major leagues, you never get a chance to pitch. And it's hard to hone your craft.
Really a fly ball. Over towards the line goes Polanco. You know, with all the talk we've had about Lorenzen, Wade LeBlanc has done that and then some for his manager tonight, Clint Hurdle. It's only allowed 1 run.
Yeah.
LeBlanc due up third in the last of the 6th inning. Right now, no activity in the Pirate bullpen, but we'll see. First pitch swinging Peraza to straightaway center. Reds gone in order. Reds 6, Pirates 1. The bank. Fireworks Friday at the ballpark, Friday, April 14th. That'll be the Reds and the Brewers for only $12. Don't miss a spectacular post-game fireworks show presented by Miracle Grove. 513-381-REDS or visit Reds.com. Michael Lorenzen, 3 perfect innings, 3 strikeouts in relief of Brandon Finnegan. And now we get a look for the second time this year. He didn't give up any runs his first time out, but he walked 4 batters in 2 innings. His left-hander, Cody Reed.
Well, he's got the kind of stuff where he could walk the bases loaded and then strike out the side. You hope that doesn't have to be the case. But he was able to wiggle out of those jams that he created his last time out. That was against the Phillies.
And what was ironic was the 4 walks were each of the first 2 hitters in the 2 innings he worked. So he nearly did what you just said he's capable of doing a moment ago. 1 ball, 1 strike. He'll face a ladder third. So this is an ideal time for Cody Reed. You've got a 5-run lead. You're in the bottom of the 6th inning. You're starting a clean inning. And I'm not suggesting that these guys at the bottom can't hit, but let's face it, they're batting 7th, 8th, and 9th for a reason.
Yeah, but when Cody Reed was coming up, out of the minor leagues a year ago or before that, the kid at the plate, Josh Bell, was one of the best hitters in the league, if not the best hitter in the league. So, yeah, they're batting 7th or 8th in Major League lineup, but they still, by what Reed has mostly seen in the minors, this guy is the creme de la creme. But really, that shouldn't matter to him. He could just throw the ball over the plate, down around the knees. It's the kind of swings you get right there.
So he retires a first batter, and this is something we talked about with Reed. Going back to last year when he made 10 starts, went 0-7, very high ERA, a lot of walks. Spring training this year, his first outing this season, is getting through that first inning on the mound, and in many cases getting through the first batter in an inning. So a good start for Cody.
In a way, it's kind of like reverse mop-up. Because how often do you see you go to your bullpen the way that Brian Price has had to go to your bullpen today, and the other team only has 1 run? I mean, normally you see it in the case of an injury where you've got to cover a lot of innings.
It's a soft fly ball that Hamilton will run down.
Boy, did he get a jump on that ball.
Yes, he can fly too. Man. This is where we really get the vantage point of how fast a guy like Hamilton can run. We are at the very top of this stadium. So you're looking down and seeing this figure almost like in a video game, covering all this ground where in 3D a ball is out there floating in the air. It's incredible.
It's a good view. This is about the 2nd highest broadcast level view that we have behind Washington. That's way up there. I can see the Great American Bank or the insurance building.
You're right
up there.
That's brutal for us. I mean, I'm not complaining. We get a great seat for 99.9% of the games, but when they built that ballpark, they must have forgotten who their single biggest sponsor is, because they stuck him at the very top of the ballpark.
Well, you don't like pigeons?
I love pigeons. There's a comebacker, and what an excellent inning for Cody Reed. Well done, young man. very first inning, 4 consecutive walks. 2 with the bases loaded. Reds scored 3 times in that opening inning. In the second inning, Adam Duvall with a 2-run single, plating Billy Hamilton and Jose Peraza. The Reds stole 5 bases in the first 2 innings of this game. But Michael Lorenzen, perhaps a game saver, even though he won't get a save in this game, retired 9 consecutive batters. He came in with the bases loaded and nobody out and did not allow a run to score, preserving what was at the time a 5-1 lead. The Reds added to that on the home run by Suarez in the 5th. Wade LeBlanc still out there. And by the way, the home run by Suarez means the Reds have now homered in each of their first 7 games. Otto lifts one into short left, and he's retired to begin the inning. That is their longest streak to start a season since they homered in their first 9 games in the year 2000. Of course, the year 2000, there were such extraordinary high hopes for the Reds that year. In '99, they had gone to the 1-game playoff, you may remember, and they lost to the New York Mets. And then during the offseason, bang, the kid comes back to Cincinnati, Ken Griffey Jr. And the Reds would never be close, even remotely close, during Griffey Jr.'s entire tenure, as they were the year before he got here in 1999. It's such a shame, all the injuries he suffered during this time with the Reds. That was the biggest story in Major League Baseball when it happened, by far.
Oh yeah, the kid comes home.
Yep. Of course, now that would be Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. Most of his time, though, spent in a uniform anymore, and it's infrequent, but not most of it, all of it has been in a Seattle Mariners uniform, where, of course, he started his Hall of Fame career. 2-2 on Adam Duvall.
I didn't see him in spring training. Is he a guest instructor?
Yes.
Or with the Seattle Mariners?
Yes.
Yeah, they're right up the road from the Reds.
And they share a complex up in Peoria with the San Diego Padres. Well, the lead goes on for LeBlanc tonight. You were just getting ready to start to say
Making it looks easy, doesn't he?
Well, you know, Chris, I was going to ask you, and I tell people this all the time. You know, I've been blessed enough to announce baseball for 30 years. But when I drive down the highway in the Midwest in the summertime, and I'm driving back and forth, say from Chicago, we're playing a series up there, I can pick up 3, 4, 5 minor league games on the radio. You can learn something from somebody, no matter who you are or what stage of your career that you're in. And I was going to ask you, you watch LeBlanc tonight, and at least for the short term, for a guy like Cody Reed or Robert Stevenson, they might be able to learn a little something.
Well, you know what? I think front office personnel could learn a little something too, because everybody's become so enamored with the fastball that they feel like nowadays, if you don't throw 95 miles an hour, we're not going to draft you. Well, LeBlanc is, 86, 87. Hitters don't hit the radar gun. They hit what they see. If there's deception, and if you have control and command, and you have a little breaking pitch to go along with it, you can get hitters out today, just like guys did it at 86 or 87 miles an hour, 30 years ago. I think that there are a lot of prospects in the minor leagues that just maybe aren't given the shot, the extended shot that the hard throwers are. I'm not saying an 85-mile-an-hour fastball is easier to hit than 95, but there's other things to consider, like movement and location.
This guy has worked almost 6 complete innings and thrown 64 pitches out of the bullpen. Game on. Reds and the Pirates, game 2 of this series tomorrow night. Reds Live gets underway. 6:30. Brian Giesenslaw, Jeff McCorrow, Jim Day and company. Produced by Kent Dream Weaver on Fox Sports Ohio and trending live on Fox Sports Go. Rookie Davis will make his second major league start. And we understand that, Jim Day, you taped an interview with Rookie Davis, part of the pregame show tomorrow.
Yes, I did, Tom.
What are you doing down there? Carrying on with a...
No, Billy Hatcher was throwing a baseball to a little kid, and he dropped it into the camera well, and I went and retrieved it and made sure the little guy got it.
That's very nice of you.
So, very sorry. I was late on the trigger there.
That's all right. Suarez throws out the Pirates' leadoff man. That would be Jordy Mercer here in the 7th inning. That's 10 in a row retired by, or I beg your pardon, that's 13 in a row retired by the Reds bullpen. Lorenzen had 9 up, 9 down. Reed went through a 1-2-3-6.
Lorenzen now has retired 15 in a row, going back over his previous relief appearances. Oh, that's a nasty little pitch right there. Took something off that fastball.
Well, perhaps tonight could be a jump start and bringing some confidence back to Cody Reed. You know, despite the 4 walks in the 2 innings, scoreless innings for Reed, that was his first major league win. That outing against the Phillies. It's when he came on in relief of the aforementioned Rookie Davis. And the Reds picked up the win to finish off the Phillies, winning the final 2. High gas to take care of Marte. Boy, this is impressive tonight from Reed.
I'll tell you what, you know what's really good about this for the young Reds pitchers is that you go out there and you pitch like they've done tonight, and they're no longer going to be intimidated by, you know, the up-and-coming star Starling Marte, or, you know, the former MVP Andrew McCutchen. They're going to think, hey, my stuff is plenty good enough to get these guys out. And I think that went a long way, that same thing, by taking the series in St. Louis.
Well, he just retired 3 bona fide big league hitters right there. In order, 6 up, 6 down for Reed. We march to the 8th. Reds lead 6-1. Excellent work tonight by the Pirate left-hander Wade LeBlanc. 5 1/3 innings, allowed 1 hit, 1 run. That was a home run by Suarez. Antonio Bastardo takes over on the mound for Pittsburgh. LeBlanc did not walk a batter. He did not strike out a batter.
Well, he was a bullpen savior tonight, though. I mean, this could really have been a nightmare for Clint Hurdle and Ray Searage, the pitching coach. If LeBlanc went out there and got knocked around, and then they would have to fill the slot with 2 or 3 other pitchers. Not only did he pitch well, he kind of kept them in the game. Only gave up 1 run.
Schebler against Bastardo. When you saw some of the leadership there by Francisco Cervelli after the first pitch, Bastardo threw nowhere near the plate. Obviously, we don't know exactly what was said, but there was only one person doing the talking, and it looked pretty animated. From Cervelli into foul ground. Bastardo, since that conversation, throws 2 strikes and gets an out.
Motivation. You may want to find out what he said, because it could maybe you might be able to use it for one of your teams, one of your basketball teams.
Tried all the tricks, my man.
Team.
6 years of the basketball for my son, 6 years for my daughter. We had a pretty good run at it. Pretty good run at it. Just don't know what I'm going to do with myself next basketball, because it's all over.
It's a lot harder from the stands.
And not nearly as much fun. There is nothing better. Nothing better.
You're right about that.
It's not only coaching your own. I mean, it's getting to know your kids' friends in some cases, or at least certainly in certain situations, better than their own parents even know. Yeah. And you kind of know what they're all about, what makes them tick, and their, kind of highs and lows. Great stuff. So got this baseball season left, though we can hang on to that for a while. Thank God for it. 3-0 on Scooter Gennett. Drive pretty well hit into deep right center field, and Gennett has gone yard for the 2nd time in his Reds career. He has 2 hits, and both of them are home runs. That's a long way from home plate right there.
I'll tell you, for a little guy, he really packs a punch. His first home run at Great American Ballpark was an opposite field job that was not a fence scraper at all. This one, he just drops the hammer. Big ballpark right here where he hit it.
Nearly going back to back. Tucker just missing getting one out of here, and this one did get out. Jaso is taking over out in right field, former first baseman.
Well, Scooter wasn't even supposed to play tonight. He was not in the original lineup. Zach Cozart ended up sitting out because he has a sore wrist, so they moved Peraza to shortstop, and Scooter took over at second base.
Cody Reed going to bat, so obviously he has at least 1 more inning left in him. You almost wonder if he were to get through a quick 8th, would they think about leaving him in there to get what would be a save in this game? You can come into a game with a big run spread if you cover the final 3 innings out of a bullpen. Doesn't matter what the lead is. Reds had the opportunity to do that with Blake Wood in yesterday's game. They decided to bring in Tony Cingrani for the final 3 outs. And these are the times you have to start thinking. It's fun to think, like a manager might be. So you say to yourself, Robert Stevenson threw a lot of pitches on Saturday. You got to believe that, you know, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, you give him as at the end of the inning. Do you consider the same thing? Of course you do for Cody Reed and how long you let him go tonight.
Telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, Reds fans, check out the new Marvell theme ticket package. For as low as $30, you get a Reds ticket and a limited edition Marvell Rocket Raccoon bobblehead. Limited quantities are available. Purchase a Marvell themed ticket package today at reds.com/Marvell. The item is only available, by the way, with the purchase of the ticket package. Reds lead 7-1. Cody Reed set to begin his third inning of work. The Reds bullpen going back to the third inning. That's when Michael Lorenzen came in with the bases loaded and nobody out. The Reds bullpen has not allowed a single base runner in the game tonight, and we're starting the 8th inning.
Boy, Reed's delivery just looks completely different. And it could be just because he's gotten a few more touches on the mound, maybe ironed out some rust that he got out of spring training. You know, you get into that first game and, you know, he wants to throw a ball, you know, through the backstop. He just looks so much calmer today. I'll tell you who's an important guy in this Reds pitching organization is Ted Power down there. You know, Mac Jenkins worked with most of the starters and the relievers, you know, before the game, but during the game, when he gets a strikeout there, during the game when some of these young pitchers are going to get their bullpen working, the pitching coach isn't there to watch them throw their pen. So that's where the bullpen coach comes in, and of course Teddy has had a lot of these guys who have come through the organization. Just a calming influence down there, without a doubt.
When you talk about a guy who is the ultimate gamer, I mean, it doesn't matter what they asked him to do in his career. And, of course, he had some of his best moments in his career right here with the Pirates. But whether it was a starter, a long man, setup guy, closer, Ted Power would do anything you asked him to do. And do it well. Well, you bring up a great point, because for some of these pitchers like Reed, like Robert Stevenson, who are pitching out of the bullpen for the first time in their careers, he just blew away David Freese on a fastball. 2 up, 2 down. And that's 8 in a row retired by Cody Reed. But, you know, Power's a guy that could answer any question you might have in any situation that might come up, because he's done it all.
Yeah. But it's also, you know, I think that Ted said something that I thought was very interesting a couple of years ago. He said that having a son about the same age as these guys has really helped him communicate to them. So he knows what they're thinking, because he's got a boy at home that he went through high school and college age and so on, and so he can communicate with them a lot better. Kind of gets on their same level, and you know, when he needs to be a tough guy, he can be. But for the most part, he's more like their big brother.
And he's a heck of a guy to talk to.
And understands pitching, and understands that not everybody falls into the same box when it comes to a pitching delivery or a pitching style.
Boy, this is pretty good work here by Cody Reed. He's trying to strike out the side here in the 8th inning. Cervelli waiting, and here comes the 1-2. 97 gas, a little bit up. Now does he come back with that slider that heads toward the back right foot of the hitter in the box? Yes, he did, but it stayed up in the zone. That was a pitch, and we talk about Randy Johnson a lot. So much was made about his fastball, but the strikeout pitch many times was that slider to the right-handed batters that would just nosedive into their back right foot. That was gas there, and he strikes out the side. Well, does he get 3 more outs to try and save this game? He's retired all 9 he's faced. This bullpen has been unbelievable. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And My Toyota for over 30 offers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places. Get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. We call it Reds Live, and we'll come your way tomorrow night at 6:30. Game 2 of this series. We will have pretty much every game for the foreseeable future right here on Fox Sports Ohio. It's not every game, but it's just about every one of them. The next 2 on this series, every game on the upcoming 10-game homestand. 4 against Milwaukee, 3 against Baltimore, 3 against Chicago. And then the last week of April, there's only 1 game which will not be on television. That's a series finale on the 28th of April in Milwaukee. That's a day game. Billy Hamilton, a 3-hit game. He has 2 stolen bases and 2 runs scored. And he opens the 9th inning with a base hit against Bastardo. We asked the question, would they give Cody Reed a chance to collect the final 3 outs and save this game? Apparently the answer is no, although, Reed had worked up a pitch count in spring training when he was still vying for a spot in the starting rotation. And look, sooner or later, Cody Reed's going to start a game.
Yeah, the
looks like
original
they're going to
plans.
go to Wandy Peralta, pardon me.
Yeah, the original plans were to have him start a game in the first week of the season. But it's also a good opportunity to get everybody else in there, to get them live touches in a ball game. It's just going to make you a better bullpen when everybody's fresh.
The duo of Lorenzen and Cody Reed have retired 18 consecutive batters tonight. I tell you, it would take a lot of digging around. But Chris, you and I have been together in the booth now, 10 years? You were with George a long time before that. So I'm pretty sure it would predate you and I being together. I cannot remember, and the Reds, through our time together, there have been some years where they've had as good a bullpen as there's been in baseball.
Yeah.
There's a base hit in the left field. I never remember the possibility of a Reds bullpen retiring the final 21 batters in a game, all by relievers. And that's exactly how this game would end. If they can get a 1-2-3 ninth inning, it looks like Wandy Peralta will be the guy.
I just like the zeros on the board. And I'm sure Cody Reed, has got to feel very good. And I think the sooner they get Robert Stevenson back on the bump, get some of that rust away from him.
Singles by Hamilton and Peraza to open up the ninth. Strike one to Votto. Hitless game for Joey tonight. 0 for 3 as Walton scored. Peraza has 2 hits. Hamilton has 3 hits. Suarez has been on 3 times. 2 RBIs, a stolen base, and a home run. Duvall, a couple of runs batted in, a stolen base. Scooter Gennett, 2 RBIs and a solo home run. So contributions up and down the lineup. It's a fair ball. They'll get the out at first. The other 2 runners will move up. 1 out. Don't forget, coming up this Saturday, it'll be Kids Opening Day presented by Frisch's Big Boy. will have the free block party early on at the Banks. And in that block party, Reds players will be parading right through it. We've got jugglers out there, photo ops with Cletus from Fox Sports Ohio, face painters, a lot going on. It's going to be a huge day. This Saturday, that's a day game, 1:10 start, Kids opening day. Well, Duvall has a chance to cap up back-to-back monster games. 1 for 3 tonight, stolen bases, walked, scored, driven in 2. Infield in to cut off that all-important 8th run. And Duvall looking for 2 more RBIs right here and right now.
You just might be trying to test your defense right here. You're going to use this configuration in a very tight ball game.
They had a huge crowd for a Monday night here tonight. 28,264. Most of them are long gone, or a lot of them anyway. Lorenzen is in line to get the win. And man, that would be a win earned out of the bullpen. Walked in the worst jam you can. Bases loaded, nobody out. Did not allow a base runner or a run. Soft liner for the second out. Tomorrow we'll send rookie Davis to the mound and then Amir Garrett in the series finale on Wednesday night. Two 2-0 on Suarez. Night is clearly over for Cody Reed. 3 brilliant innings, perfect innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks for Reed. On the heels of 3 perfect innings from Michael Lorenzen. Suarez taking all the way 3-0 with a 6-run lead here in the 9th. But all bets are off on his 3-1 pitch. If he gets one that he likes, he will let her rip. Way outside to load him up.
I think that Bastardo knew the same thing.
Scott Schebler taken down for a pinch hitter. Going to try to get an AB here for Patrick Kiblahan. 1 of 7 so far this season. Loaded with 2 outs. We're in the 9th. See if Patrick can get in on the act here and pick up a couple of runs, batted in with a base hit. Played so brilliantly in spring training in Arizona, earning his way onto this opening day roster. Good eye there, 2 balls and a strike.
Stardo is a guy that the Pirates really need to depend on to be one of their main left-handers out of the bullpen. Problem is that he lost about 1.5 miles or so on his fastball last couple of years, and when he was at his best, he was primarily a one-pitch pitcher. Pretty much one fastball after another, all up around 93 miles an hour. He could elevate it like he is trying to do right there to Kiblahan and throw it by a lot of people.
We saw him first come to the major leagues with Philadelphia. I thought this guy was going to be really good.
That was a while ago. He's now 30 years old.
I know, it's hard to believe.
He's had a nice career.
Yep. Well, he elevates there and he gets a strike out of Kiblahan, and we're off to the bottom of the 9th. Reds in front 7-1. Our Miller time, in this case, moments of the night, brought to you by Miller Lite. The dynamic duo tonight of Michael Lorenzen and Cody Reed. 6 perfect innings with 7 strikeouts in relief of Brandon Finnegan. You cannot possibly do it better than that. And this Reds bullpen, and hey, look, we know it's only the 7th game of the year. We all get it. But the bottom line is, these guys down in that Reds bullpen, by and large, an entirely new cast, as Chris brought up earlier. Wandy Peralta ended the year in the Reds bullpen, but he was not there when they were getting clubbed around the first couple of months of the year. This group has been sensational through the first week of the season. And it really doesn't matter who they've brought on. You know, outside of the one appearance by Stevenson on Saturday in St. Louis, and that was his first outing of the year, and really the first time he's ever pitching out of the bullpen in his career, so you got to give the guy a little bit of rope. Outside of that lone appearance, this Reds bullpen has just been incredible.
Well, what it does, Tom, is it gives you a collective effect of one guy pitches well, the next guy wants to pitch better, and then a little bit of, a little competition among all those guys in that bullpen. And it's healthy competition. You want that in your starting rotation. You want it everywhere, really.
Latter third in the batting order will be Bell, Frazier and then Jaso, and gone swinging. That's pretty nasty. This was a young man, Chris, you were very high on.
Well, he's got a signature pitch, that changeup you just saw, that is about as good as changeup as you'll see in the organization. And the one thing that's kind of held him back from being a left-handed reliever is not having a really solid breaking ball that he can throw for strikes. But that slider that he's beginning to toy with is getting better and better.
Didn't notice that walk-up music all night tonight from the young fella from Lake Charles, Louisiana, Adam Frazier, born on the Bayou. That's a big league oldie right there from Fogarty and the boys. And the Pirates down to their final out, trying to make it 21 in a row. 21 up, 21 down by the Reds bullpen if Peralta can retire Jaso right here and right now. Jaso his first at bat. And a check swing.
There's a little slider.
Yep. I don't know the last time that I've seen this from any bullpen, much less a Cincinnati Reds bullpen. To come in the game in the third inning, and not a clean third, to walk in with the bases loaded and nobody out and retire. Did he go around? He did not. And you're a strike away from retiring every batter the rest of the game. First it was Lorenzen, then Reed. 2-2 the count. Lorenzen in line to get the win. It would be his first of the year. Reed 3 perfect innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks. And now Peralta, a 2-2 count with 2 down and nobody on, last of the 9th inning. And they finish him off 21 in a row.
Wow.
21 in a row. Reds win. And this pitching